What's up, metal and heavy music fans? It's Flight of Icarus again with MetalTrenches.com, and I've got 5 underground bands to recommend for fans of industrial metal music. And hey, if you like to be kept up to date with the best and brightest metal bands and albums from the underground and above, then stick with me by hitting that subscribe button down below. Also support us on Patreon. Let's kick things off with Los Angeles-based industrial metal band Three Teeth. Slowly but surely over the past 5 years or so, Three Teeth have seen massive growth both in their sound and audience. Starting with the modest, skinny puppy-esque beginnings of their 2014 self-titled album before befriending Adam Jones of Tool and joining them on a massive tour. This leading to the much more grandiose, stadium-worthy sound of subsequent albums Shutdown.exe and Metawar, which I'd compare to the likes of Marilyn Manson and Rob Zombie. And while overall I prefer Shutdown.exe, Metawar is definitely the band's most diverse and bombastic outing to date. The heavy moments are more over the top than ever, with tracks like President X taking me to the days spent listening to Astro Creep and Hollywood. But also gloomy Depeche Mode vibes on slower tracks like Blackout. Either way, the bitter vocals, spooky synth lines, and catchy machine-like guitars pull strongly from the late 90s era of industrial rock and metal that once ruled the airwaves. And speaking of which, I strongly believe that there is an alternative radio audience champing at the bit for music like this if stations only find the balls to play it. The first 5 tracks of this album in particular were seemingly designed in a lab for mass distribution with their pulsating, often danceable energy, perfect for the cyberpunk soundtrack as well. And if you'd like to hear more about the band's trajectory over the last few years, you can actually hear it from the mouth of frontman Alexis himself in this interview from our podcast. Turning to something a little bit more extreme and arguably less radio-friendly, we've got French blackened sludge crew Fang. I've already been enjoying their filthy, more Lord Mantis-y take on noisy, spiraling hellscapes over the years, but their increasing evolution towards a more industrial Godflesh vibe has been a welcome one. With each record, these guys have just been getting better and better, and while I was already impressed with the strides forward on 2019's Pudeur, I think they've really come into their own in 2020 with Poigne and especially Pudeur. Sludgy walls of distortion, pulsating electronic drums, and eerie synth effects join with gruff, nihilistic vocals to create sadomasochistic soundscapes ripe for kinky underground sex dungeons and debaucherous nightclubs.
Oh God, get this thing off of me!
From the gurgly intro of Solal Venkus, we are sent through an Event Horizon-esque portal to unspeakable sci-fi horrors. Pounding digitized drums and menacing blackened sludge riffs are perfectly complemented by demented howls from the beyond. And other tracks with their more overt focus on mechanical noise and atmosphere seem like they would be right at home on the Doom Eternal soundtrack. For 3 albums now, Fang have been inching up in quality, but always just on the verge of top-tier material. Finally, with Pudeur, they have earned that A that they so desperately deserve. If ever there was a time to jump on the Fang bandwagon, it's now. Then we've got aggro industrial metal crew Dawn of Ashes. Dawn of Ashes is another band to come a long way in just a few years, initially catching my attention with Theophany. What started out as more of an electronic black metal project ripe for touring with the likes of Motionless in White has since blossomed into a fully matured industrial powerhouse. Hot on the heels of Skinny Puppy but with the danceable violence of Mindless Faith, the band blew me away in 2019 with the Crypt Injection II Non-Servium. Only to continue this steep upwards trajectory even further on 2020's The Antinomian, with the help of underground label Artifact Records, alongside the likes of Frontline Assembly, Three Teeth, and even Skinny Puppy's own Kevin Key. Their latest material is another powerful set of electronic drums and synth-driven club anthems, but far from the Jaeger bombs and Affliction t-shirts of the main strip. Complemented by harshly distorted vocals and harrowingly dark atmosphere, this is music for that gothic, windowless chic, surrounded by black tattoos contrasting with sickly pale skin. The type of place that Blade's Deacon Frost would get a drink.
Maybe it's time we forgot about discretion.
Grab a goblet and squeeze into your old pleather pants. It's time to become one with the night yet again. Next up, it's machine-driven industrial metal project Author and Punisher. Easily the most unique and forward-thinking project on this list, Author and Punisher is already impressive in its songwriting, but even more so when you consider that Tristan designs and fabricates all of the instruments as well.
There's a stylus right here that basically follows the grooves. You can create the beats like that.
He's the Tony Stark of industrial metal. Furthermore, he's explored so many different territories, from the hypnotic noise of drone machines, to the arguably even more experimental Pressure Mine, to the major label turn of the 2018 Relapse Records album Beastland. But if you ask me, I most love the more straightforward industrial metal sound of 2015's Melk En Honing. This album is brimming with cryptic and nihilistic earworm mantras and violent eruptions of pessimistic bile. The pulsating notes of Tristan's machines are undulations of cyborg sex, with the debauchery coming to a head on Teething, which just sounds downright dirty. Melk En Honing feels like a love note to industrial music, with cauterizes nostalgia for Ministry and the Process-era Skinny Puppy, and Future Man's very Nine Inch Nails sounding outro. Disparate thumps around with equal parts Manson aggression and ogre levity, while Callous and Hoof sounds like Wisconsin Death Trip being played through a cassette that's being eaten by your cassette player. Regardless of which album turns out being your favorite, there is no doubt that Author and Punisher will capture your imagination in some way with Tristan's unbelievable sense of both creativity and ingenuity. And last but not least, we have Brooklyn duo Statiqbloom, which is more akin to traditional industrial bands like Skinny Puppy, Ministry, and Mindless Faith. Yes, this project is not nearly as bombastic or overtly metal as the other ones on this list, but I can never pass up on an opportunity to share more puppy-influenced industrial music, them being one of my early, more obscure loves and favorite bands of all time. Despite enjoying their 2017 full-length album Blue Moon Blood, it's 2018's Infinite Spectre that really proved their overall worth and potential. With just 6 songs over 22 minutes, Statiqbloom delivered some of their best material to date without any distractions. Their ability to craft darkly hypnotic synth soundscapes with rebelliously nihilistic vocals is unquestionable, especially on the Too Dark Park-worthy Thin Hidden Hand. But it's hard to choose favorites with so many moments, from the infectious as hell drums of Vampire to the hauntingly catchy chorus of Ersatz Gaze. It's easily one of the most consistently enjoyable industrial outings I have heard in the last 5 years. Plug in, zone out, and bob your head to the beat. And that's it, y'all. Those are just 5 underground bands you should check out if you love yourself the likes of Nine Inch Nails, Marilyn Manson, Rammstein, and the rest. Let me know down in the comments which one was your favorite, who I missed, and your favorite industrial metal band of all time. And hey, stick around and subscribe for more lists like this one, full reviews of new albums, tier lists, and interviews with bands on the podcast like the one I mentioned with Alexis from Three Teeth. You can also support us on Patreon and join the Discord. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.